Thank you, Lori.
Sure.
This morning's topic is the significance of mother worship. And this will, of course, apply not only to Navaratri, but for the rest of the mother season, which goes through the fall. The significance of mother worship, according to Swami Swahananda. This morning, we will talk about worship of the Divine Mother, also called Shakti or Kali by Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. She is the power that manifests our universe. The Master and Swamiji tell us the nature of this power is feminine. Swami Swahananda emphasized, it is in the struggle, even in the lost battles of life, that a spiritual seeker is to see the hands of the mother. Then only are you established in steadfast devotion. The seeker is to steel himself or herself against all fears and weaknesses, and the worship of the mother as power in all her aspects prepares you for it. So I'm going to read that again. This is the key idea that Swami Swahananda talked about, and everything that we will say from now on is in one way directed to or illustrative of these ideas. Swami Swahananda emphasized, it is in the struggles, even in the lost battles of life, that a spiritual seeker is to see the hands of the mother. Then only are you established in steadfast devotion. The seeker is to steel himself or herself against all fears and weaknesses, and the worship of the mother as power in all her aspects prepares you for it. Today we will speak of this worship as action. Karma means action. Worship of the mother is an extraordinary kind of action. It focuses your attention on particular methods of service to her and the ever-deepening relationship with her that you experience. And it will be your experience if you follow these directions. Now, let me emphasize, as I always do, this is not meant as personal instruction for you. What you take from this is your decision and yours alone. You have, many of you have instructions from your guru. Nothing here will conflict with what your guru has taught you, but it is strictly up to you how much of this you feel is appropriate for you. So again, it's not personal instruction. It is the ideas of Swami Swahananda, Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, and to the extent that there's any contribution from here, that too. So when you do this extraordinary kind of karma yoga focused on the mother, it brings your attention to particular methods of service to her and the ever-deepening relationship with her that you experience, which is a fact. As we explore these ideas, we'll also identify and discuss other results you can expect to achieve by practicing this form of karma yoga. So for a little background, for those who aren't familiar, who is the mother? This is from the Devi Mahatmyam, 700 verses in praise of Devi Durga. That text is also known and will be sometimes referred to today as the Chandi. In this particular part of the text, it's early on, it's the first hymn in the Chandi. Brahma, the Divine Mother's son, the creator of the universe, is about to ask her for her help in defeating the enemies of the gods. He is praising her. he says, "You are the origin of all the worlds. You are incomprehensible even to Vishnu, Shiva, and others. You are the resort of all. This entire world is composed of an infinitesimal portion of yourself. You are verily the supreme primordial Prakriti, untransformed." Prakriti means the powers of creation, support and nourishment, and destruction. Nature in all its forms and names, both external and internal. Now, in the Devi Mahatmyam, the stories of the Devi Mahatmyam, Mother Durga does as her son Brahma asks. She slaughters the demon hordes who were preventing the gods from doing their work. In the words of the Chandi, they had robbed the devas of their prowess and taken charge of, dominated all of the universe, all three worlds. They were preventing the gods from doing their work. In a hymn of praise to her after her victory, the gods and sages chant salutations again and again to the goddess who abides in all beings in the form of mother. This is part of the Sarva Bhuteshu sequence. Salutations again and again to the goddess who abides in all beings in the form of mother. She is within all beings. That includes each of us, as well as the demons. It is natural to have a loving, even worshipful relationship with your birth mother. How much more so the mother of your being, the mother of the universe, also the mother of your being, who abides within you every moment of your life. Sri Ramakrishna said, "I wept before the mother." Now this is about this idea of having a relationship with her, a loving and worshipful relationship with her, but also what she can offer us. Listen to what Sri Ramakrishna says. He says, this is in the gospel, I'll give you the citation. "I wept before the mother and prayed, 'O mother, please tell me, please reveal to me what the yogis have realized through yoga and the jnanis through discrimination. And the mother has revealed everything to me. She reveals everything if the devotee comes to her. She reveals everything if the devotee cries to her with a yearning heart." So there's the instruction. She reveals everything if the devotee cries to her with a yearning heart. She has shown me everything that is in the Vedas, the Vedanta, the Puranas, and the Tantra. As I said, this is in the gospel. If you want to find the context in which he said this, it's on page 579 in the gospel. And the master told M, the writer of the gospel, "Practice just a little, and someone will come forward to help you." This is one of his instructions to M, who was his direct disciple, but it's also an instruction to us. Practice just a little, and someone will come forward to help you. That someone is the mother of the universe herself, according to the master. Swami Vivekananda also spoke about worship of the Divine Mother. These notes were taken during a Sunday afternoon class in New York in June of 1900. So this is a quote from Swami Vivekananda. I'll tell you when the quote ends. In an old Veda is found the mantra, "I am the empress of all that lives, the power in everything." going to repeat with that. In an old Veda, actually the oldest Veda, the Rig Veda, in an old Veda is found the mantra, I am the empress of all that lives, the power in everything. Mother worship is a distinct philosophy in itself. Power is the first of our ideas. It impinges upon man at every step. Power is felt within the soul. Power felt within the soul. I'm sorry. Power impinges upon man at every step. Power felt within is the soul, without nature. And the battle between the two makes human life. All that we know or feel is but the resultant of these two forces. Man saw that the sun shines on the good and evil alike. Here was a new idea of God as the universal power behind all. The mother idea was born. The mother stands by her child. The mother stands by her child through everything. Wife and children may desert a man, but his mother never. Mother, again, is the impartial energy of the universe because of the colorless love that asks not, desires not, cares not for the Mother, again, is the impartial energy of the universe because of the colorless love that asks not, desires not, cares not for the evil in her child, but loves him the more. The world is all alike in the play of the mother, but we forget this. Even misery can be enjoyed when there is no selfishness, when we have become the witness of ourselves. In our thought of God, I'm going to stop here in this quote. Even misery can be enjoyed when there is no selfishness, when we have become the witness of ourselves. This is the goal of karma yoga. We stop seeing ourselves as the small self, the self-centered self, and we see ourselves as the witness of all that is, and as we witness it, we offer it to the divine within ourself and within universe, Mother. So even misery can be enjoyed when there is no selfishness, when we have become the witness of ourselves. In our thought of God, there is human limitation, personality. In our thought of God, there is human limitation, personality. With Shakti comes the idea of one universal power. In the Gita comes Krishna's significant saying to Arjuna, I am the real and I am the unreal. I bring good and I bring evil. Eternal, unquestioning self-surrender to the mother alone can give us peace. Love her for herself, without fear or favor. Love her because you are her child. See her in all good and bad alike. Then also will become sameness and bliss eternal. That is Mother herself when we realize her thus. Until then, misery will pursue us. Only resting in the mother are we safe. She is life, she is intelligence, she is love. She is the universe, yet separate from it. She is a person and can be seen and known as Sri Ramakrishna saw and knew her. Established in the idea of mother, we can do anything. She quickly answers prayer. She can show herself to us in any form, at any moment. Divine Mother can have form, rupa, and name, nama, or name without form. And as we worship her in these various aspects, we can rise to pure being, having neither form nor name. A bit of Mother, a drop, was Krishna. Another was Buddha. Another was Christ. Worship her if you want love and wisdom. So that's the end of the quote from Swami Vivekananda. So before we move on to some practical aspects of this, as given to us by Swami Swahananda, anything in this definition and description and fleshing out of the idea of the mother that you want to ask a question about or make a comment about, this is a good place to pause and ask. This is how we do this together. Share with us what has arisen in you as a result of what you've heard so far. Anyone?
Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Can you tell us where that quote is from Swamiji?
Oh, there's a section in the complete works called Notes of Classes in New York. I've forgotten just exactly where it is, but if you just when the PDF appears along with the talk, just download it and pull a little piece of the quote and put it in the Google window with the name Vivekananda, and it'll come up and tell you where to find it all.
Great, thank you.
The PDF will contain all that quote.
Thanks.
Brother Shankara, I have a question.
Yes, Sham.
Why did the gods felt so powerless, so that the mother had to come?
A very, very good question, Sham. The asuras and daityas, the demonic, is more associated with the left mind. And the gods and everything associated with them is more associated with the right mind. The left mind is literal, linear, intentional. It persists. We can see it. We can see it in human beings that are greedy and aggressive and lustful. They pursue and pursue and pursue what they want. They are combative. They are aggressive. They are assertive. This is the demonic. It's described so beautifully in chapter 17 of the Gita under the Rajasic aspects. The gods, on the other hand, are more associated with the heart and with the right mind, which is not linear, which is not intentional in that same way. It's much less, it's much more concerned with unity and love and compassion. So we see over and again in the world, and we must assume, since the world reflects the universe, in the universe, that the demonic forces prevail and must be pushed back. So as a friend of mine pointed out, a friend, Deepak, a disciple of Swami Prabhupada, who lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico now, about 18 months ago, he pointed out to me that what's happening now in the world looks like the opening of a new chapter of the Chandi, because the demonic and exploitive and relentlessly aggressive forces have taken charge of so much of the world. And so that's why, and it is only when Mother, who is both left and right minds and heart and everything else, she pulls together, as it says in the Chandi, she pulls together all the powers of all the devas. And it's said of her, it is her nature to subdue the conduct of the wicked, even though the wicked are her children. But it says, Mother, don't you destroy asuras by mere sight? Yet you direct your weapons against them, so that even the inimical ones, purified by the missiles, may attain the higher worlds. Such is your most kindly intention toward them. So Mother's love is impartial. But when the devas come to her and say to her, Mother, we're helpless, we're powerless against these people. You must do this. As it says in the Chandi, there are 3 chapters in which this happens. The mother is implored by Brahma, by Indra, Indra is the king of the gods, to gather together all of the power and defeat the asuras and the daityas, those of demonic nature. So I hope that answered the question, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? That was a very, very pertinent and important question. Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead. So we said that this talk was delivered in the context of karma yoga, the significance of mother worship, according to Swami Swahananda, who put it himself in the context of karma yoga. So this is the role of karma yoga, of action in your relationship with the mother. According to Swami Swahananda, according to Swami Swahananda, if you pursue the karma yoga path, these are your priorities. First, and he has these in priority order. First, constant recollection that she is and is doing everything. As Sri Ramakrishna said, this world is all alike the play of the mother. We offer all that she gives us, every thought, feeling, and perception. And we offer all that she gives us, every thought, feeling, and perception back to her, along with every action, eating, sleeping, etc., everything that we do, and its results, until at last we actually experience that we are doing nothing. She is doing everything. Now, this is a precise parallel to what Sri Krishna describes in chapter 3 of the Gita, in which he tells us that mother, through her gunas, is doing everything. Actually, he says it's him that is doing everything. As Swami Vivekananda said, Krishna is her shadow. And so ultimately we come to the feeling, we come to the belief, the experience that we are doing nothing. She is doing everything. So that's the first priority. constant recollection of the truth. This is satyagraha, insistence on the truth, that mother, in this context, mother is doing everything. So second, making japa. What is the reason for making japa, which means chanting your mantra? It is to establish a continuous connection with her. These are Swami Swahananda's words. It helps you establish a continuous connection with her. This helps you attain concentration and control of your conscious mind. This is one of the primary purposes of practicing, of doing japa, chanting your mantra. It helps you attain concentration and control of your conscious mind. Number 3, practicing meditation. Now, so we start with recollection of the truth. Then we establish a relationship with the truth. Now practice meditation, which helps you attain control of your subconscious mind. And because you sink below the level of your conscious awareness, your waking awareness, because you sink below that level, you begin to feel her living presence. So first, satyagraha, insistence on the truth that mother is doing everything and offering it all back to her. Second, practicing japa. It establishes this connection, this conscious connection with her. And it helps you concentrate your mind and become aware of your waking awareness. Your conscious mind becomes very well known to you as you practice japa. Why? Because your waking mind keeps trying to interrupt you as you do your japa. Third, practicing meditation, which helps you attain control of your subconscious mind, your active subconscious. This is where the seeds of our thoughts and actions come from, our subconscious mind. It's virtually unknown to us until we practice meditation, but it is there that we see, it is there that we feel, oh, these things are arising because of her actions. You become aware of her living presence. Swami Swahananda said, at last, the karma yogi merges in the direct thought of the chosen deity. Now, if you remember, Swami Sridharananda said it this way. Swami Sridharananda is the one in charge of the work in Australia and New Zealand now, very senior Swami in his 80s. He's been here, he's communicated with us. Actually, no, he hasn't been here since I've been here. He has been here, but not since I've been here. But he's communicated with us. And here's what he says is the sequence. First, we start off with this self-centered idea. It's not a bad or wrong idea. It's just limited. I am. I am. And when we begin to practice spiritual disciplines, when we begin to do our spiritual practices, we attain reverence for the divine presence. Even before we fully know it in any sense, we develop this sense of awe and reverence. That's what the last week's talk was about, your spark of reverence. So then it's I am and thou art. After a time in practicing your spiritual disciplines, doing your spiritual practices, as the Swami said, you get this sense of the living presence, which you sense is far greater than your small I am self. So it reverses from I am and thou art to thou art and I am. I am a part of thee. And finally, as Swami Swahananda says, at last the karma yogi merges in the direct thought of the chosen deity. And so the last phase is thou art. So it starts with I am, then I am and thou art, then thou art and I am apart, and finally the realization that there is only the presence, thou art. At last, the karma yogi merges in the direct thought of the chosen deity, in this case, the mother. And the fourth priority, and all of this is meant to happen not sequentially, but together simultaneously. But if you have to choose a priority each moment, each day, the 1, 2, 3, 4 is there. The fourth priority is chanting hymns and stories about her and formal worship. These are in fourth place. These are Swami Swahananda's words. In fourth place, chanting hymns and stories about her and formal worship or puja. Swami Swahananda taught, revolve in the mind thoughts of the ideal, memories of sacred scenes and attributes of her reality. The Swami's view of the world and its deity is, go straight to the mother. Now I'll give you just a little background about why Swami Swahananda was this way. Swami Swahananda's father was a direct disciple of Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi. Sri Sarada Devi told Swami Swahananda's father, one of your sons will become a monk of the Ramakrishna order. Naturally, everyone assumed it would be the eldest son. In fact, it was Swami Swahananda, who I believe was the third son. His connection to the mother was so strong that as a brahmachari, his name was Durga Chaitanya. He was a formidable pujari. He was known throughout the order for it. So when I knew him from 1976 to 2012, this was always vibrating in the background, this relationship with the mother. To be alone in the room with him was occasionally like being with Mother herself. So the Swami's view of the world and its deity is, go straight to the mother. And he said about the mother and the fact that she has her terrible aspects as well as her benign, gentle aspects. He said, do you want a namby-pamby mother? He asked that. And he said, life is a battle. Fight it with her help. Sometimes the terrible aspects are necessary. The Chandi makes it clear, mother is all. Everything, every action, every thought, every aspect of your waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. In other words, all your three worlds. The Chandi makes it clear that mother is all of that. Everything, every action, every thought, every aspect of your waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. This is from chapter 5 of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The master is with Keshab Sen, Keshab Chandra Sen, and some of Keshab's Brahmo Samaj devotees. They've taken a steamer trip on the Ganges. Keshab knew that to get his devotees alone with the master, they would have to bring him away from his room, because so many people in those days were visiting him that Keshab wanted to get the master alone with his followers, because Keshab thought so highly of the master. So they're on the steamer out in the Ganges. The master has been talking about the various ways of spiritual practice and about the nature of Shakti, of the divine presence as the divine feminine. And Keshab asks with a smile, describe to us, sir, in how many ways Kali, the divine mother, supports. Describe to us, sir, in how many ways Kali, the divine mother, sports in this world. Because Sri Ramakrishna would use that term. This universe is mother's sport, her play. And so Keshab asks, tell us how she sports in this world. The master replied with a smile, oh, she plays in different ways. It is she alone who is known as Mahakali, Nitya Kali, Smashana Kali, Raksha Kali, and Shama Kali. Mahakali and Nitya Kali are mentioned in the Tantra philosophy. When there were neither, and now he's telling us what's in the Tantra philosophy, this creation story. So Mahakali and Nitya Kali are mentioned in the Tantra philosophy. Maha means great Kali, and Nitya Kali means eternal Kali. Changeless Kali. They are mentioned in the Tantra philosophy. When there was neither the creation, nor the sun, the moon, the planets, the earth, and when darkness was enveloped in darkness, then the mother, the formless one, Mahakali, the great power, was one with Mahakala, the absolute. It's another name for Brahman. So she was one, inseparable from. Shamakali has a somewhat tender aspect and is worshipped in the Hindu households. She is the dispenser of boons and the dispeller of fear. People worship Raksha Kali, the protectress, in times of epidemic, famine, earthquake, drought, and flood. Smashana Kali is the embodiment of the power of destruction. She resides in the cremation ground, surrounded by corpses, jackals, and terrible female spirits. From her mouth flows a stream of blood. From her neck hangs a garland of human heads, and around her waist is a girdle made of human hands. After the destruction of the universe, at the end of a great cycle, the Divine Mother gathers the seeds for the next creation. She is like the elderly mistress of the house who has a hotchpotch pot in which she keeps different articles for household use. All laugh. Oh yes, housewives have pots like that, where they keep sea foam, and parenthetically, Nikhilananda puts in, the master perhaps referred to the cuttlefish bone found on the seashore. The popular belief at that time is that is the hardened, that cuttlefish bone is hardened sea foam. She keeps their blue pills, small bundles of seeds of cucumber, pumpkin, and gourd, and so on. Mm-hmm. They take them out when they want them in the same way. After the destruction of the universe, my Divine Mother, the embodiment of Brahman, gathers together the seeds for the next creation. After the creation, the primal power dwells in the universe itself. She brings forth this phenomenal world and then pervades it. In the Vedas, creation is likened to the spider and its web. The spider brings the web out of itself and then remains in it. God is the container of the universe and also what is contained in it. So the Divine Mother is the container of the universe and also what is contained in it. So in the words of another of the Chandi's hymns, the Devi Mahatmyam's hymns, we prostrate before her, who is at once most gentle and most terrible. We salute her again and again. We prostrate before her. In other words, we offer ourselves and all we are and have to her. We prostrate before her, who is at once most gentle and most terrible. We salute her again and again. So that concludes the talk portion. Now we go on to the portion that is, as you know, such a favorite from here, where you share with us what it is that you heard, what it gave rise to you in the form of a comment, or where there's still some question that you would like to ask about what was said and what it means. Please, this is how we share with one another and learn from one another and practice spirituality together.
I have a little thought.
Yes, please, Cindy.
It's just something that popped up on my computer this morning. That the okay, here's my synopsis of what you were reading, is that the Divine Mother is in the flower and in the honeybee and in the murder hornet.
Yes.
I
No
was reading that the murder hornets have evaded the Washington State scientists again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just also, it's a real thing that's going on, but it's a metaphor for other things that are going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult. You know, it messes up our minds a lot to think about, you know, especially those of us who were raised in, you know, Christian traditions or things like that, more Western, that, you know, mother is in the most angelic humans and in the worst of the worst humans, and so on with plants and animals and so on. I don't know. It's been difficult and will remain difficult, I'm sure, for me and probably a lot of people. It's more of a comment than a question, but your thought.
It's very germane. It's very hard, as you say, to get our head around that mother is the terrible as well as the benign and wonderful. That the demonic beings, the demonic human beings are also her children, and she loves them too. But in that opening hymn from which I quoted a little bit from Brahma, her son, says to her, "You are the great Devi, as also the great Asuri." She is all of it. So you spoke about the Judeo-Christian scriptures. There are a few places in which the divine being, it's in the Psalms, But most poignantly, it is in the book of Job, where we see clearly that that which tests us, that which gives us battle, the accuser, the liar, is also a form of God. Because in the book of Job, it says that the accuser comes to God, the Father, and says, oh, you've got this devotee Job. It's easy for him. He's wealthy, he has everything, he has a wonderful family. It's easy for him to say he loves you. Take away all that. You take away all that and just see what happens. And God says, no, he loves me. I can't do that. So you're afraid to. You don't. God says, all right. I won't do it, but I give you permission to do it. And so if you follow along in what it says in the book of Job, Job is reduced to a shadow of himself. Everything is taken away. His health is, he's in terrible health, covered with sores. And everyone is telling him, denounce God. See, you were wrong about your devotion to God. And he doesn't do it. And so finally, everything is restored to Job. So this is one of the instances in the Judeo-Christian scriptures where you find this. Another, though it's more implied than said directly, is in the gospel of the prodigal child, the prodigal son. The prodigal son falls under the dominion of the demonic. He demands his inheritance long before his father is anywhere near his deathbed. And he takes it and he goes and he squanders it in the most
irresponsible.
Far beyond irresponsible. He debauched. He lives a life of debauchery. Total debauchery. That's how it's described. And he ends up, of course, penniless, friendless, slopping hogs and eating what the hogs don't eat. So finally, he says, my father's servants are better off than me. And in all humility, he says, I'll go home and confess to my father that I've been unworthy and ask that he take me in as one of his servants. And what do we see? That isn't what happens at all. The father sees him coming, runs to him, and when his son starts his speech about his humble speech, the father says, what are you talking about? You're the son of the house and you have come home. Bring the finest robe, bring the family signet ring, bring the finest sandals, kill the fatted calf. My son has come home. So as I say, it's implied in that parable rather than stated directly like it is in Job. But being tempted of the devil does not disqualify from the love of, in this case, of course, it's in the Judeo-Christian context, the love of the Father. So thank you, Cindy, for bringing that up. That was very apropos. And the murder hornet, boy, howdy, it's hard to understand that one.
One other thing, and I'll find this for future reference, but there is some place in the Old Testament that says that God created, all good all the good things in the world and an equal amount of evil.
It's in the Psalms.
Is it? And
Mhm.
I had
don't
not
remember.
heard that until just in recent years. I think it was at a talk, maybe, I don't know if it was from you or Steve Gold or somebody else, but somebody brought that to my attention, and I had never heard. That's probably one of those Bible verses that people just, oh, we're not going to talk about that one.
Yeah. I think it's in Ezekiel too.
Okay, I want to find it because I found that like really interesting.
Yeah.
That went with.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's in Ezekiel that he tells Ezekiel that I am the author of both the good and the evil.
Right. Okay. Because that goes with what we're talking about this morning about.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Shankara?
Yes, Uma.
Yes, that's what fascinates me, that two opposite qualities are contained in one. And that's the beauty, I think, of Eastern tradition, but more of our Hinduism, Vedanta philosophy, that mother, who is terrible, can be the most tender and beautiful and protective. So the destructive and the caretaking, the nurturing aspects of mother. So also in Lord Shiva,
Yeah.
he is extremely easy to please. He's called Asutosha in Sanskrit. And the opposite of Shiva is Rudra, terrible. So what I'm trying to say is that in our concept, both opposite pairs or the pairs of opposites are included.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to stereotype, but most of the time in Christianity or Western religion, God is great, God is good, and what is the other thing? My grandchildren recite at the time of prayer, eating, before starting to eat. And we think of as, so the noble aspect and occasionally the punishing aspect, they are separated, but in our religion, it has place for both of them. And from that, what I learned, that before we judge even our brothers and sisters or strangers and neighbors, we have to keep in mind that the same person who is divine can be really demonic sometimes, as long as the balance is maintained. If the balance is off.
It's in the Christian scriptures. Christ addresses it in the Sermon on the Mount. If you read Swami Prabhavananda's exposition about the Sermon on the Mount, called the Sermon on the Mount according to Vedanta,
yes,
you will see that. But also, if we wish to understand the necessity of this, the cosmic necessity of this, it's found in the lectures that Swami Vivekananda gave in England in 1895. We're studying them now on Wednesday night. They're gathered together as part of his complete works as Jnana Yoga. And he explains, in explaining Maya, the illusory nature of the universe, he explains the absolute necessity of both the dark and the light. And his explanation is so overwhelmingly convincing. I can remember very clearly in 1975, when I first read that, I literally jumped up from the table and jumped up and down. Finally, something that makes sense. Finally, an explanation of reality that makes sense. it was that powerful for me at that time. And it was joyous to find that, because it does make sense the way he explains it. And the Devi Mahatmyam simply states it. You know, Mother is this. Doesn't explain the necessity of it.
Yeah.
Good morning, Brother Shankara. May I say
Yes.
something?
Well, of course you may.
Okay, this is Rita.
Yes, hello, Rita.
Happy Navaratri to everybody.
Well, happy Navaratri to you too, dear.
And thank you for this beautiful talk. I really enjoyed your talk, especially your sharing your memories with Swami Swahananda ji.
Mm.
Now, with respect to the discussion of the duality in this world, I have noticed that in the Devi Mahatmyam, there's another perspective presented, and that is the three gunas, which I find explain the reality we experience in a slightly different way, because then the anger and tamas and are considered as tamasic qualities. The intentionality, the forcefulness is explained as being rajasic. But depending on the context, they're all necessary. And mother is described as the creatrix who has the power of dissolution, sustenance, and transformation. So slightly different explanation. And the other point I find interesting about Devi Mahatmyam is that we tend to look outside due to the projecting power, the Vikshepa Shakti, and look outside, oh, this is happening out there, and this might be the cause of that, etc. But in Devi Mahatmyam, the sage tells King Surata and and the merchant Samadhi, he says, well, yes, you do have issues with your family, etc., but why not you approach mother and look within yourself? And so these allegories and metaphors are also supposed to be applied to ourselves individually. Yes, we can be responsible for correcting and shaping the world and understanding how the environment is changing, but then we have to look for the cause within ourselves, is what makes sense to me as when you look at Swami Swahananda's advice to use japa. And I feel that we have to use japa because the inner transformation is what is important in our journey for self-realization.
Yes,
That was my point.
you're absolutely right, Rita, in what you've said. The Devi Mahatmyam's explanation is somewhat different than Sri Ramakrishna's or Swami Vivekananda's. But it's just none of this can be pinned down exactly. As Brahma says, you are incomprehensible even to Shiva, Vishnu, and others. Even to your own sons, you are incomprehensible. And that all of creation is, as we experience, is an infinitesimal portion of yourself. The finite mind can never, ever understand. And if it can't understand, it can't explain the infinite. So this is why it's said that ultimately we merge with that in samadhi, and then we understand. But because there is no mind there in that samadhi, there is no experiencer. Though we understand, we cannot explain. Sri Ramakrishna literally came to tears. It's described in the divine play, his divine play, or the great master, depending on whose translation you read, that he literally came to tears trying to tell his direct disciples, those boys who became the monks of the Ramakrishna order. They so wanted to know. So finally, one by one, he gave them the experience of nirvikalpa. And then they understood, and they couldn't explain either. So, the different explanations that we find, I mean, if you listen to Ramana Maharshi, he has one way of talking about it. If you listen to Nisargadatta, he has a different way of talking about it. If you read Vasishta, he has yet another way of talking about it. Adi Shankaracharya, yet another. And so it's all pointing at the moon. It's not the moon. So we have to experience it for ourselves. We have to realize it for ourselves. But the adventure is to bring all of these suggestions that Swami Swahananda gave to us, the 1, 2, 3, 4, bring them into daily practice. Then we begin to make some progress. And that progress results in change in behavior. The change in behavior allows us to see and be even more. And it's an upward spiral. Slowly, slowly, an upward spiral. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Thank you, Rita.
I had a thought, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
I was just thinking of going back to Christ and not dualism and non-dualism, and what you were saying about both light and darkness are necessary to see, because how does a vision form in the eye? It's the crossing of light and shadow that creates an image. Is it not?
Yes.
And you know, we were reading Vivekananda on Wednesdays. I was just thinking of the Bible again, and it does seem to me, yes, there's so many examples of the Divine Mothers, the way of looking at Divine Mother as both the terrible and the pure and the absolute good and terror at the same time. I mean, the idea of resist not evil is, to me, one example that stands out. I was also thinking of the story of Valmiki. And for, you know, those of you who aren't familiar with it, the story of Valmiki is so interesting. He is a highway robber in the beginning, a murderer. And Narada is the sage. And this is one of the parables, and Vivekananda also talks about it in his lectures. So, you know, he is intercepted by Narada one day, and Narada says, you know, why are you robbing people? And he's saying, I do it to support my family. And
Narada says, would your family share the karma?
Yes.
And and opens Valmiki's eyes.
It opens Valmiki's eyes, and Valmiki then becomes the poet of the Ramayana, is the clincher of that story. And I just think it shows, you know, all of these forces are within us.
Yes.
And how we act in the face of their absolute presence. And I think that is my the workings of it in my, you know.
Saint Francis of Assisi said about such things as Valmiki and the necessity of not judging. He said, true compassion and love cannot come from your eyes until you admit that you are capable of any act, until you confess that you are capable of any act. This is why there's this saying in the Christian, Judeo-Christian tradition, there but for the grace of God go I. So we must not judge. We must not either condone. It's a very, very fine line to walk.
Yes.
Thank you, Divya.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing I
Yes, dear.
wanted to bring up out of the three things that Swahanandaji suggested about why japa. First, you say continuous, it connects you. And when you do it incessantly throughout the day, then it connects you with the divine.
Yes.
Second, you say concentration. Yes, it does sharpen your concentration. But the third one is the one I like most. And that perhaps is the rarity or distinct aspect of Vedanta, that it is a discipline which tries to bring into control our unconscious mind.
Yes.
And unconscious is so mysterious, so full of naughtiness, so full of, really, I mean, unconscious, what I'm speaking right now, and within what's going on, nobody knows but myself. So it's also considering the opposites. Unconscious can also be a creating ground of poetry and beautiful imagination and literature and works of art. But that demonic aspect of unconscious or subconscious. So Vedanta aims at bringing that aspect into as much control as possible.
Yes.
That can be done through japa, that can be done through bhakti, jnana, and for a person like me, who thinks is a combination of right and left brain, that whatever I do, I must give a thought. I must reflect on what I'm doing. And that aspect of self controlling self or self monitoring self.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about Vedanta, that whatever we all are very weak, not weak, but very complicated human beings.
Yes.
And we have negative qualities side by side with the positive. And the more japa does, and the more reading and reflecting, that becomes a self-helping kind, self-monitoring kind of spiritual discipline.
Because as you practice japam and then practice concentration and meditation,
Yes.
you attain real knowledge of the contents of your waking awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and then of your subconscious awareness,
Yes.
your active subconscious. And this is what the Swami means when he says, you attain control of your subconscious mind and feel her living presence.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of us do not sense her living presence in our waking state.
Yes.
We feel her living presence when we slip below our waking state through the practice of meditation. Then we see, oh, there's something that this is not my small self that is doing this.
Mhm.
There's something else. And it is, as I said, something that can only be known through self-effort up to a point. And then, as Patanjali points out, something happens to you. And because your mind has been prepared, you slip into this state of awareness called samadhi. Thank you, Uma.
Thank you.
As usual, nice contribution. So, anyone else? All right. Well, again, thank you, dears, for coming. Next Sunday, the talk will be something called a Karma Raja cocktail.
Ah,
Karma Raja cocktail.
Yeah.
How we combine karma, the practices of karma yoga, with the practices of Raja Yoga, which is what Swami Swahananda is pointing to in points 3 and 4 of his. So that's what will be next Sunday's talk, a Karma Raja cocktail. And of course, on the 24th will be the puja. For those of you who wish to join in, the link will be like our regular Saturday meeting, but it'll be so identified in the newsletter and on the website as a link to the puja also. So zoom in to witness Aditya Chaturvedi doing the puja and several people singing. As I said, if you want to sing before, during, or after the puja, send me an email to that effect, and I will communicate that on to Aditya. Please don't communicate with Aditya directly. Communicate with me so that I'm aware of what's going on, and I will forward your email to Aditya, and he will then coordinate with you about when in the puja to sing. So if you'd like to do that, please do. Anything else before we wind it up? Okay, dears. So good you were here this morning. So good this happens this way. So we'll close with this wonderful prayer, and as it was translated by our beloved Swami Yogeshananda, who continues to be alive and living in Trabuco, not himself as we knew him, but the transformation process is going on, and he is, but he is still in the body. We'll let you know when he passes away.
is he steady or is he going down or?
Well, you'd have to get it seems to vary from day to day, Uma. You would have to be in touch with Swami Dhyana Yogananda to get an update. We've just asked that Dhyana Yogananda let us know if there's any serious change in his condition or if he passes away. So we hear not very many people see him because of the virus situation, of course. But when Zach Wiles went to see him recently, Zach didn't have anything new to really report.
We pray.
So this is Swami Yogeshananda's translation of this ancient prayer for peace. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. So until next time, of course, during the week, there's the Monday reading and discussion group of Love Poems from God. On Tuesday night, we're still studying Mother's, the book on Mother, her divine play is written out by Swami Vivekananda. And on Wednesday, having concluded our study of the Gita for the time being, we have gone on to Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. And then next Saturday will be the puja rather than the normal Saturday class. And then on Sunday, as I said, a Karma Raja cocktail, how to combine the practices of Karma Yoga and Raja Yoga as a way of spiritual practice. Any final thoughts from anyone? All right, dears. Until next time, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. Go in Mother's loving embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful in this time of dreadful transformation. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.